There's a lot of specific terminology about megalithic structures, and it can be different in English and in Portuguese. It gets a little bit complicated when we start talking about groups of standing stones. Let's find out about it. Maybe the most iconic megalithic structure is the individual standing stone, which we call in English the menhir, or sometimes it's pronounced menhir. The term menhir comes from the ancient Briton language, which means a long stone. And in Portuguese, we use the same word, but without an H, and it is pronounced menhir. The complication comes from when we have a group of them like this. In English, we typically call a group like this a cromlech, and it's spelled this way. That term comes from Welsh, and it means a curving stone, and that's why it's often used for stone circles. In England, and definitely in Wales, it's sometimes used to refer to a tomb, which in English we usually call a dolmen, and in Portuguese that term is called an anta. I made another video about that word, and I've linked to it here. Here in Portugal and in Portuguese, and in most other languages, cromlech does not refer to a stone tomb. You wouldn't use that. A cromlech in Portuguese and other languages is only used for stone circles or other groups of standing stones. In Portuguese, it's said cromlech, it's spelled this way. English speakers sometimes look at that spelling and get confused, but the QUEs in Portuguese just makes a k sound. And that reminds me of one of my favorite Portuguese terms, which I'll come back to at the end of this video. So cromlech in Portuguese is typically used to refer to stone circles or groups of standing stones. And you'll see it on various street signs. Notice that the image on the street sign, when it says a cromlech, is of a dolmen or an anta in Portuguese. You might think that they're using the term cromlech for that, just like in Welsh, but they're not. That symbol just means an ancient megalithic structure. You can see the same symbol is used for a menhir. Now, the term cromlech has been used in Portuguese for a long time to refer to groups of standing stones, typically stone circles. It's got a little bit out of favor amongst archaeologists, although it's still used commonly, especially with some of the famous cromlechs, like the cromlech of Almendres. What's often used more commonly amongst archaeologists is this term, recintos megalíticos, which means megalithic enclosures. And this is because most of these sites are enclosing a space, either in a circle or an oval, or maybe in a horseshoe shape. You'll also see in literature and in books the term conjunto megalítico, which means a megalithic group or a group of standing stones. And this could be particularly useful, especially if you're talking about something that's not a circle or an enclosure. Occasionally there are alignments, or even in one case, a cross of standing stones. But in general, the term cromlech is used in Portuguese, and I will use it a lot in these videos, along with recinto megalíticos or megalithic enclosures. And again, the spelling cromlech reminds me of one of my favorite Portuguese terms. But before I get into that, I want to remind you, please do like and subscribe. I'm going to be visiting lots more sites this year, and you don't want to miss any of the exciting visits we're going to have. So, QUE is used in Portuguese to make a k sound. When you visit Lisbon or other Portuguese cities and towns, one of the things you'll often see are the kiosks, which are small little cafes that you can buy a coffee or a pastry or a glass of wine in and sit and enjoy the atmosphere of the square. The term for these is the same as in English. It's a kiosk. But in Portuguese, it's spelled a little bit differently because there is no letter K. It's spelled kiosk. And I think the Portuguese spelling is a lot fancier and much more fun than the English spelling. And it makes me think, if you had a group of kiosks in a square, would you have a cromlech of kiosks? Thanks for watching.